Thanks for talking about this. Well, it looks like my plans to slowly resolve and wind down this year have all but been disrupted. It seems that Renegade has decided to drop a bunch of new figures and details at their latest PAX Unplugged, which, I guess we are going to have to dive into and talk about. These figures belong to the Secrets of the Citadel, which is a presumed master set and large release slated for the last half of 2026. There's lots of great characters. I've been looking over the models and the molds, but little concrete details have been revealed. But if you have a little bit of your foot on Heroscape lore and Heroscape history, you might be able to identify and have some sort of guess where these figures are coming from. So let's look into these and do a bit of postulating and, dare I say, speculation as we look at the sculpts, discuss the aesthetics, and predict what the future may hold as the Secrets of the Citadel may fully and finally be revealed. So the first thing to notice is that there is new terrain featured here with these guys. We have these mushroom terrain, which is actually something that was originally mentioned and referenced in the HasLab campaign. We were shown sketch art for that, which is really cool to see some new molds and new terrain types happening. For the most part, we've been stuck with rocks and glaciers and outcrops and such. So I really appreciate getting some new unique molds. Now, if the mushrooms are actually line of sight blockers or just a bit more is entirely up to guess. It would be nice to have them do a bit of interaction with the terrain. It's always nice when, trees give +1 defense, or, the terrain has some features that make it more tactical and appreciative to navigate to. I think it'd be interesting to have your attack lowered by 1 from their debilitating spores while you're next to them, more of a negative debuff, but also maybe some kind of healing or some portent of that extent would be really great to have as well. Also notice that we have some new off-colored terrain tiles. They seem to be kind of dusty and covered in a layer of verdigris. So, according to the Discord, they were described as being something extremely ancient. Maybe catacomb or crypt tiles. It's anyone's guess what they could really be, but I think they do provide kind of a dull, desaturated contrast compared to the more vibrant and vivid dual-toned tiles we've seen in times past. First up, we have the bears, the big bad bears, the bears, that if I were to guess were inspired or most likely the Gnarlfur clan referenced in the Frostclaw bios. These are kind of grisly, if you'll pardon the pun, warriors that were constantly attacking the Frostclaws, even to their almost certain demise. They seem to be a lot more barbaric and larger, and just lankier and mean compared to their some people I've noticed don't like the proportions of these bears. I really like them. It makes them feel just different enough from the Frostclaws where you can definitely tell that there is some cultural differences based off kind of this pseudo barbaric armor and bone implements and rigid weapons compared to the Frostclaws, who seem to have armored themselves in more tactile and modern equipment from their Vorid allies. Overall, I'm really impressed with them. I'm excited to see. In terms of powers, I don't know if they'll just be trying to make a Frostclaw Redux, kind of give them some other form of bonding. As we'll talk about later, I think it could be Utgar warrior bonding, because we might have some Utgar warriors in the box, or they could have something that's more just simple. And I suspect that they're going to be a simple power, just keeping in with the bear's theme, but be a lot more rigid, causing auto wounds or something against large creatures, large commons or squads, which we have been plagued with for a while. Next up, we have this Kairi warrior with a flame sword. I presume this to be Taelord. He very well matches the sculpt and the posing of this unit. Now, if you're kind of new to Heroscape, this is a classic unit released in the first wave. So the designers seem to be going way far back in terms of their references and detailing here. He noticed he has a flame sword, so I don't know if he still will provide a +1 attack, maybe a +1 melee attack. We do know, according to bios and scenarios, that he has been showing up. It's actually a good thing to notice that the bios are a key of knowing where things are going. I know a lot of the lore council and story designers have really deep-seated interest in where the lore and story is going. So it's everything is said for a reason, is what I think and imagine. Taelord, last we've checked up on him, has been fighting in gladiatorial combat as kind of a purveyor to Lovi attack taking control. With Taelord, it does bring kind of an interesting question of what is Utgar's status in this this age of Heroscape. Is he dead, as presumed by the last scenarios, or is he been risen again, or was his death just a big facade? Will these cards have Lovi attack as listed as a new general? I can't imagine that they would do something that mechanically complex, but I also wouldn't put it past them because it would be really interesting to develop and grow the story. Perhaps it's a remnants of Utgar that still fight for him, despite his passing. I think there's a lot of interesting ways to take the story, and I am excited to see where it goes. But I imagine he would have some kind of searing sword smite, so that when he attacks a unit, maybe he can instantly kill them, which we haven't really had too many insta-kill units in AOA, and definitely has to have some kind of attack buff, and perhaps even a legitimately worded stealth flying. Next up, we have this winged lizard creature, which I believe and has been somewhat confirmed by the Renegade staff to be Madame Durnipa. Psychotic healer of sorts, using unconventional methods to restore creatures from fallen states. It's first introduced with the story of Valgard, the rogue Viking warlord who lost his arm and was able to survive by having a lizard arm grafted onto its skin. It seems that she's an amalgamation of different parts kind of fused together. I don't know if her class will be Kyrie or maybe like something like monstrosity. I think there's definitely some room for it. She has also recently shown up in the Skodire bios as a sort of kind of lab scientist doing experimentations on the hive soldiers and other fellow Skodire. I really have no idea what her power will be. I imagine it'll be some kind of twisted form of healing where maybe she can heal your wounds, but you get a new character class or something like that. I think she'll definitely fill the role of a strong and unique support hero. And I'm excited to definitely see where they take her abilities. Definitely labeling her under the Einar banner, just based off her lore association. But I could see her falling into Revna and be like a witch of sorts as well. But she always seems a little bit too scientific for that kind of classification. I could honestly have her be a scientist, or maybe an 8, some kind of unique tag for her, I'd say. Okay, next up we have the Vorid Sniper Squad. These guys look really great. I love the animals, which seems to be some kind of weasel in a top hat, like a hamstery, gophery kind of guy, and perhaps a kangaroo mouse. Some very unique animals, and I love just the designs and the aesthetics of these. The Vorids, love them or hate them, they do have, at least they're growing on me over time. I really like just their take on Redwall, but with guns at times. And these guys are definitely serving Valeric. Perhaps they are some kind of answer for Zed Nesbit to make them viable. These are units that were actually teased in the early HasLab campaign as just initial character sketches. So not much was known about them, but they are very interested to see that some of these sketches, initial concept art from years ago that we thought was never going to get punished, is going to be released. I do think it'd be really nice to have these guys have some kind of wait and fire variant. That way Zed Nesbit can move them, and then on their turn they're already in place to fire down. I keep on talking about Zed Nesbit as I think he is one of the currently worst units in Heroscape as is, so having a squad where he can actually move them around and get them set up and perhaps have some innate bonding in that squad would be really great for them to have. I honestly don't see them having bonding as we have the Chain Gruts fulfilling a similar role, but perhaps they have some kind of mechanical abilities to heal their wounded champions or some kind of strong artillery. I really don't know what these guys are going, but I definitely imagine it's going to have some kind of ability that requires them not to move to get a better bonus when attacking. Those waiting for some true and genuine historicals, you can rejoice. It looks like Heroscape is finally getting back to its roots and getting some classic non-sci-fi, non-fantasy, just general old people with swords and guns from planet Earth back into the game, which I'm so excited about. This here seems to be some kind of samurai police officer. Doing a little bit of research, it seems like it's kind of a Edo period police force, kind of like a high-ranking samurai. Pretty much they're street-level samurai who patrol the streets and kept enforcements up. If you look up a picture of these guys, or I'll put one here, pretty much they do seem just to definitely have the same aesthetic, you know, provided that he has like the Einar colors and stuff like that. I don't know if he will be like a common hero. I assume he'll be like a unique hero in this sense, but I assume he's going to have Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is something kind of missing from modern Heroscape, just kind of that ability is classic and iconic. I'm just excited about them. He's a very simple design, and sometimes that's good for the people, the boring old humans, just to be relatively uninteresting. You know, he's got his sword, he's got his fun little hat. What more can you ask for? Okay, so this is a deep dive, quite literally. Way back in the early years of Heroscape, there was an aired commercial featuring an animated segment with Sergeant Drake joining Jandar's forces and fighting alongside a bunch of characters we know and love today. In that video, there are a bunch of nameless characters that have never been in the game, have never been referenced, and they just seem like the artist didn't know what the game was fully being developed into, so they just kind of threw a bunch of random things. There's like 4 Deathwalkers and multiple Morrow Warriors. It's just kind of a bunch of Saturday morning cartoon drawings thrown together. One such character who shows up for like 3 seconds that I've always wanted to see a character with no other name other than Background Fish has finally shown up. With the Gelryie making the way for this underwater society, we do now have the opportunity to explore some more unusual Gelryie designs. This does seem to bear a resemblance to the previously released Gelryie Warriors, except he seems to be outfitted in some Jandar Omnicron tech. He's got this big blaster and that iconic white armor plating. So I'm guessing this guy is following Jandar. I'm still hoping he has the fierce attribute just so he can kind of still work with the Gelryie and give them some much needed range support. In terms of other abilities, I could see him having something as simple as deadly shots, like the Omnicrons before him, or just lots of fun ways to take this. You know, I'm sure have some swim abilities, and yeah, I think he's pretty cool. He's almost like a heavy weapons fish. So this one's kind of an interesting one. More of a guess as I'm following the breadcrumbs laid by the designers and story writers that this is a Soulborg, and his name is going to be S14X. S14X is a Soulborg referenced in Admiral EJ's bio as pretty much kind of an example of how summoning creatures from other worlds or even the same worlds can be quite problematic, that if you're not a strong leader, it can lead to infighting. S14X was actually an assassin designed to kill EJ, which ultimately led to the Soulborg EJ leaving Vidar's faction and becoming a pirate, as is wont to happen. So, I mean, that's just my guess. This is definitely in the land of postulation, but I mean, he has like the visage of a stealth assassin type here. Noticeably, he has like this hex pattern kind of cloak and these long arm hands. My guess is on Soulborg, he'll be an assassin, perhaps a ninja. And, you know, good luck everyone freehanding those hex things. That's going to be, those hex patterns are going to be fun to freehand, which Heroscape often hasn't have. So it would be nice to try something different in that regard. This one's really interesting. We have what appears to be Isamu, or what's left of him. It seems like he's been stabbed a couple of times and still is enduring on. This is really interesting because in Agent Carr, the new one's bio that released, he keeps on mentioning how he's being like haunted by the ghost of Isamu, who is said to have been killed. It's rare to get like a clear confirmation of a character death. Heroscape operates under comic book rules where no one's ever truly dead. And I guess that holds true with Isamu too, as I'm calling him. He is just pierced with a bunch of blades and daggers, and he definitely looks worse for wear. I'm assuming he is defaulted from Utgar at this point and is now following Revna, but I could also see him being Utgar as well. I'm honestly not seeing a lot of Revenant units in this release, so it may be that Revna doesn't have as much power in this domain, or that Utgar maybe is coming back and taking control of her necrotic abilities. It's honestly tough to tell, as the story will unveil itself. In terms of abilities, I don't even know. I don't know if they'll decide to keep him like a cheap filler unit, or if they'll kind of upgrade his status. I could honestly see him being a unit that just dies and then just keeps on coming back, kind of like an acolyte of sorts, so that he's always around, kind of taking a different approach to this unit never dies that the classic Isamu has, where he's always just dying but always just coming back, kind of inverting the dynamic of that he had before. I'm sure you have Ninja class, which is great for the Tanukis and other bonding. The question is whether he'll be undead or human, or what's his status there, and what general he follows, because I think that'll be really telling of the state of Valhalla. In the far back here, we have this little guy who I'm just calling Quoth, because he's just a little raven guy in the far. Just a little guy. This is a raven referenced in Rakchot's bio, as it seems to be the familiar for Rakchot. Rakchot is not a very good unit. Again, kind of like Nesbit, he's kind of underused just because he doesn't fully do what he's supposed to do at maximum speed. So I'm really hoping this raven does something with life markers, either gives them or boosts them. I think there's some need for some stronger beast, so it'd be nice if it wasn't fully just tied to Rakchot, and maybe just had some like D20 wounding abilities as well. Would be nice, because honestly we need some auto wound abilities in Modern Escape. We don't have a lot of that. A lot of design seems to have shifted away from that strong variance. So all that to say is he's just a little guy. I'm really looking forward to painting him, and definitely going to probably serve Revna, if I was to guess, the Raven Revna. Okay, so this is a very interesting one. So if those of you who are fans of Morrow, you can rejoice, because we got ourselves a true and proper Morrow. Honestly, this release here is marking the return of form of many classic things that we want to see. Historicals, Morrow, just simple sci-fi and fantasy themes. It's very nice to see that coming together. And this just seems to be a large Morrow monstrosity. It does appear to bear a strong resemblance to Kee Mo-Shi, as she has been mentioned so much in the bios that she honestly kind of deserves her spot in modern Heroscape. Now, she doesn't look like Kee Mo-Shi. She's much larger, and the designers refer to her as a shrimp. So either this is Kee Mo-Shi and a new form, as Kee Mo-Shi canonically has the ability to be reborn multiple times. So perhaps with each rebirth, she becomes more and more monstrous. Or it's just another kind of take on the Morrow Witch, using Kee Mo-Shi as a reference. I could see both kind of becoming true. Interestingly enough, Kee Mo-Shi is a witch, and if you notice the Revenants of Revna, which I don't want to talk about the name, how silly it is, but those Revenants mention bonding with witches, which could take form in this this giant Kee Mo-Shi like figure. But it is interesting because Kee Mo-Shi has times past worked with Utgar, because the Revenants need to bond with Revna figures. So maybe Kee Mo-Shi defaulted, or maybe this is a new variant that has taken the tag of Revna Witch. It's entirely unsure of what this will do, or where even her abilities are. I assume she'll have some form of, mind taking over ability or control ability, if she is indeed Kee Mo-Shi. I can't tell if she's more than just, that's how Morrow witches look, or if that's just Kee Mo-Shi and shrimpified. I really can't tell, but I am looking forward to getting this unit on the board. Okay, so this one I'm really excited about. It seems to be some kind of female knight warrior. up front, another kind of historical unit added to the mix, very clearly seeming to resemble Joan of Arc or Jandar Arc. Just a very, very, prominent figure in both pop culture and mythology, as just kind of her prowess on the battlefield is definitely something that has inspired legend and is definitely befitting of something having a place in Heroscape. Now that said, you have to acknowledge the elephant in the room that if you are a customs fan, they did just release a their own version of Joan of Arc, which is fine. You can have multiple versions of the same thing. As I said, she's a very iconic character, assuming even, of course, that she is Joan of Arc. I imagine that she will be a champion to go with the Frost Claws, but there's a dozen different tags she could have assigned to her if she is indeed Joan of Arc. All of that to say is the sculpt, I think unpainted, will look really, really cool. Those flowing white robes will be a really fun touch. And I'm tying this one to Jandar. Jandar likes his shiny knights. I mean, like, it's kind of a given. Okay, so next up we have a Vorid Cowboy, which seems to be a prairie dog. He's just a cute little guy. I imagine he's gonna have some kind of quick draw ability. It's honestly cool to see the Vorids just starting to take on other tropes. The Vorids are very much like a class of units that are just like encounter one other culture and say, this is my whole personality now. One group of Vorids just saw some ninjas and said, this is who we are. This one presumably saw some cowboys and said, doing it. I think they would have some kind of quick draw ability, or Vorids have lots of movement, so maybe like Scurry. I don't know much about him, but he's just a cute little guy. Next up, we have Arm Cowboy. These ones definitely do seem to be less referential. This kind of group of cowboys and lawmen. I really can't tell. It looks really cool. I do wish they just went with generic classic cowboy. I could see him being maybe a Vidar unit, or perhaps Einar, just based off the tech, but perhaps he is a Valeric. Maybe these guys are forming some kind of varied squad with like a Vorid and a cowboy, but their placement on the map definitely makes me doubtful of it. He perhaps has some kind of reach or grapple grab. I really don't know much about this guy. Some people think he's Guilty McCreech, but I would say no. Guilty McCreech's most iconic feature is the hangman noose around his neck, which if you remove that, he's just McCreech. He's not guilty anymore. He kind of gives a steampunk kind of vibe, so he might even fall in with Valeric, although Valeric does seem to have a lot of units in this set. So not much to say about him, other than maybe he's referencing the teased Marvel units from a Gen Con exhibition display from many years ago, with a Doc Ock figure. Almost it feels like a reference to that, the posing and the placement of the arms, where we would have gotten a Doc Ock Marvel figure. But maybe that's just a bit too vague, or maybe I'm just reaching here at this point. Next up, we have another orc, kind of Valerorcs, as I like to call them. He seems to be some kind of inspector, kind of a noir detective. I don't really know what his stance is. He's got a flashlight and a gun. Very much kind of given Maltese Falcon vibes here. Maybe Indiana Jones is like looking for artifacts. It's definitely touching on that 1930s aesthetic for sure. So I'm assuming that he will be a champion, but maybe there's some room for some different classes to go along with the chain grets as some kind of support. But it is interesting that they would reference Orc Champion with no modern Orc champions and modern Heroscape for the chain grets. So I assume he's some kind of champion, even if it maybe doesn't match his theming. I assume that he's just some kind of maybe officer or private eye. I really don't know where he's going to fall into the story of things, but I am interested to find out. Okay, this is probably my favorite unit, at least in terms of sculpt and aesthetics, is Sudema, or as I like to call her, Tudema. This is a classic figure released in a booster set many years ago. Her bio mentions that she was kind of an underpowered queen when she was summoned, as both the wolf faction and the elf faction teamed up together to bring her down. So perhaps this variant is one that has regained some of her lost vitality and power, and is now rampaging across the undergrounds of Valhalla. That would be pretty cool. I just love the sculpt. The sculpt definitely seems to take more inspiration from her box art, which is perhaps a very deep cut, as her box art was always a lot more dynamic and engaging than the actual figure, which always kind of felt stiff and, you know, it's still menacing, but definitely different. She's going to maintain her Stare of Stone ability. I hope they change it. My biggest change to Stare of Stone would be that you would keep the figures on the battlefield, but they are frozen and become destructible objects. I think that would be really fun. So they are effectively destroyed, but you can kind of block paths and things and have to destroy them with, you know, a menagerie of frozen statues and stuff. Perhaps, you know, some other options is you give her some kind of frenzy ability so she can keep on doing it, as a reference to all the snakes on her head. There's just a lot of fun things to do, or she can have some just more auto wound abilities, or there's just some insta-kill abilities I think on her would be really, really fun. Something to maybe bring her a bit more to competitive usage as well. I see her maybe defaulting from Vidar and maybe becoming a Revna unit and becoming a witch. I think one of these units is going to become a Revna witch. I just don't know which one, because as a queen, she does get the scion bonding, but as a Revna witch, it does kind of fit with that undead vibe. So maybe there's I think a lot of growth from it, or room to develop her as a narration, because she always had such a cool bio, always was so menacing, but always kind of underperformed. Even with classic, even with custom help, she's still not the top tier pick. So I think there's some fun stuff in store for her. I hope she gets a significant power boost and just is really, really usable. And saving the most impressive for last is this figure. It is a gargantuan amalgamation of steel and tentacles, and I think it's really cool. This was another teased concept from the HasLab campaign. Pretty much this is just a sketch for the pirate faction way back in 2020, which is insane. I can only imagine how fellow content creator Derek feels, as they affectionately call this unit Cthulhu Daddy, after a reference to both Cthulhu and Big Daddy. What would you like to see in the game?
Well, we'll go back to the Dawn Raider Syndicate concept art that they shared on day one of the Avalon Hill campaign. I call it Cthulhu Daddy.
To see this thing actually formalized and realized is really cool. It shows that Renegade is diving deep into the well of ideas that have already come before. It's a killer sculpt. It seems to have a goblin on it. According to some pestering of the designers, it seems that this is a unit with two names. So both the Cthulhu monster and the goblin with the Gatling gun have their respective names, which is something that's never been done classically in Heroscape. As for its class, if it has two names, I'm worried it may be varied. But you know, there's a lot of ways to go about this thing. This thing can have like 10 abilities just on the look of the sculpt alone. You have a goblin, you have a Cthulhu, you have a minigun, you have a giant axe, you have pirate theming. Like I don't even know where to go and simplifying this unit. But I am excited to see it. I'm assuming Valeric just based on the colors and the scheme, but honestly, this unit could kind of fall anywhere. I could see an argument for almost any general. I like that it's big, but it still fits on its space and that the space is nicely. Having learned from previous mistakes, even the big units fit on the board quite appropriately. Yeah, I love it. This one is going to get like a very nice paint job. I want to do him up super well. Spend a bunch of hours on him to make him look pristine, because he has the capability just to has enough detail and enough stuff on him to be a showstopper unit on the board. So he's getting the luxury treatment, and almost it feels kind of vindicative. Like this was a thing that was teased years ago and is now actually realized. I think that's about it. There has been hints of more units from Secrets of the Citadel coming, maybe perhaps in the forms of additional battle boxes. And again, take everything I said with a grain of salt. I have no confirmation on any of these things. I, of course, try to do as much research as possible, but this is just my initial thoughts. They are subject to change, and don't get your hopes up for what I said to be true or not true. All it shows is that there's a lot of Heroscape coming out next year, so definitely buckle down because I think we're just getting started in this insanity. I love the sculpts of these units. Many of these are some of my favorite sculpts that have been revealed so far. For me personally, there hasn't really been like one I don't like. Maybe Isamu kind of falls to the bottom just because of his posing. But even then, you know, my little red ninja boy, he gets a pass because I love him. So it's a touchstone on things both old and new on multiple eras of Heroscape, and it gets me excited for the future. And that's the secrets of the Citadel. Wild reveals, lots of speculation. I am so excited to see where these units go. As 2026 is shaping up to be a year filled quite literally to the brim with Heroscape. So I'm buckling in and getting ready for the ride. Thanks for watching, and you all take care.